Hello, welcome to the stream. This is me, Goomb, and welcome to the Goombosphere. Tonight we are going to be reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which is a really great book, and I'm going to be reading it so I can share my knowledge of what's in this book to everybody who has the opportunity to watch this here beautiful stream. Yeah, as I found out actually when I was reading it on a different stream. Yes, I did read this to a stream before of a friend, of course, Garvey. But so basically, yeah, the chapters are kind of out of order a bit. It goes from chapter 1, chapter 2, right, chapter 3, and like between chapter 4 and 5, I think that's chapter 9 or something of the sort. I didn't really look, but I mean, yeah, whatever it is, we're going to go in order based off of what the Roman numerals say in the book. So I probably won't finish the book, but we'll try to get through as far as we can. Yeah, so anyways, let's start. Okay. Chapter 1, Laying Plans. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account on one's deliberations, when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are 1. The moral law, 2. Heaven, 3. Earth, 4. The commander, and 5. Method and discipline. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler, so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passages, and the chances of life and death. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison, in this wise. 1. Which of these 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the 2 generals has the most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. When army is which army is stronger? 4. 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy? Constancy. I don't know how to say that. Constancy, both in reward and punishment. Yeah, that's how you say it. By means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or death, or defeat. That's one of the 2, really, isn't it? The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it, will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel, nor acts upon it, will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. While heading the profit of my counsel, avail yourself, also, of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make the enemy believe we are near. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. If he is secure at all points, prepare for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If he faces... that was completely wrong. If his forces are united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. These military devices, leading to victory, must not be divulged beforehand. Now, the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus, do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat. How much more, no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Okay, now that was chapter 1, which was called Laying Plans. I did make a few bit of mistakes. Hopefully will be ironed out as we go. Who knows? Anyways, here is chapter 2, Waging War. Sun Tzu said, "In the operations of war, where there are in the field of 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mailed-class soldiers, with provisions enough to carry them 1,000 lie, the expenditure at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and sums spent on chariots and armor, will reach the total of 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 10,000 men. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, the men's armor will grow dull and their ardor will be dampened. If you lay siege on a town, you will exhaust your strength. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. Now, when your weapons are dulled, your ardor dampened, your strength exhausted, and your treasure spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that may ensue. Thus, though we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has not been seen associated with long delays. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war that can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. Bring a war material with you from home, but forage on the enemy. Thus, the army will have food enough for its needs. Poverty of the state, exgestion. Oh, jeez, this is the word I keep messing up every time I read. The poverty of the state, exgesture, causes exgesture. You know what? I'm just going to skip that word. Causes an army to be maintained by contributions from a distance. Contributing to maintain an army at a distance causes the people to be impoverished. On the other hand, the proximity of an army causes prices to go up, and high prices cause the people's substance to be drained away. When their substance is drained away, the peasantry will be afflicted by heavy exactions. With this loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, the homes of the people will be stripped bare. 3/10 of their income will be dissipated, while government expenses for broken chariots, worn-out horses, breastplates and helmets, bows and arrows, spears and shields, protective mantles, drawn drought oxen and heavy wagons will amount to 4/10 of its total revenue. Hence, a wise general will make a point of foraging on the enemy. 1 cartload of the enemy's provisions is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likely a single pickle of his provender is equivalent to 20 from one's own store. How, in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger. I messed up the first word there. I am dumb. Now, in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger. That there may be advantages from defeating the enemy, they must have their rewards. Therefore, in chariot fighting, when 10 or more chariots have been taken, those should be rewarded who took the first. Our own flags should be substituted for those of the enemy, and the chariots mingled and used in conjunctions with our own. The captured soldiers should be kindly treated and kept. This is called using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Thus, it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nation shall be in peace or in peril. Now that is the end of, guess what? Chapter 2 of The Art of War. And the next chapter being Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem. But I should get a drink so I don't die. Okay, after this chapter, let's start. Sun Tzu said, "In the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So, too, it is better to recapture an army entire than to destroy it. To capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire, than destroy it." Wait, what? Okay, yeah, that's it. Good enough. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to bulk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. The rule is not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of mantles, movable shelters, and various implements of war will take up 3 whole months, and the piling up of mounds over against the walls will take 3 months more. The general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to an assault like swarming ants, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain, while the town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their enemies without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. With his forces intact, he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. It is the rule in war. If our forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround them. If 5 to 1, to attack them. If twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. If equally matched, we can offer battle. If slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. Hence, though an obstinate fight may be made by a small force, in the end it must be captured by the larger force. Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his enemy. 1. By commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. 2. By attempting to govern an army in the same way as he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldiers' minds. 3. By employing the officers of his army without discrimination, through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come from the other feudal princes. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army, flinging victory away. Thus we may know that Thus we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the Spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who prepared himself. God. Okay, I will need to get a drink after this or something. Not of alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I'm talking about simply Powerade by Pepsi. No. By Coca-Cola Company. Yes. He will win who prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. He will win. 5. He will win who has a military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. 18. Oh, wait, I don't say that. Jeez, I really do. And my mouth is dry. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And that was the end of chapter 3. So I will take a quick 1 to 2 minute break to get a drink and to turn off the heat in my room because it's really hot. So yeah, I will be right back. Hello, I am back. I'm going to get something else on the screen for you, my separate version. Google. Look at while I read The Art of War, obviously. Just wait for this to do its thing. The music's also probably going to have Let's make a nice little background for us, I guess. Yeah, this is a little break from the art of war, I guess, isn't it? What's it doing? Why is it not existing? That's the one thing I need it to do. You know, I'm just gonna give up on that. No, I want the picture. Boom, good enough for us. Yeah, also, something interesting about the representative I gotta look at later. Can I zoom, you think? Maybe? Could that be a cool thing? Oh, Jesus. Okay, no, that's good. That's good enough. Let's get back to the book. And boom. Okay. This is chapter 4, Tactical Dispositions. Sun Tzu said, "The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for..." I need to slow down, don't I? "And then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it." Security against defeat implies... Wait, okay, never mind. I got distracted. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. Stranding on the defensive indicates insufficient strength. Attacking, a superabundance of strength. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have ability to protect ourselves. On the other hand, a victory that is complete. To see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. Neither is the acme of Jesus. Okay. Neither is the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer, and the whole empire says, "Well done." To lift an autumn hair is no sign of strength. To see the sun and moon is no sign of a sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder is no sign of a quick ear. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. Hence, his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Thus, it is that in war the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to method and discipline. Thus, it is in his power to control success. In respect of military method, we have, firstly, measurement. Secondly, estimation of quantity. Thirdly, calculation. Fourthly, balancing of chances. Fifthly, victory. Measurement owes its existence to earth. Estimation of quantity to measurement. The calculation of to estimation of quantity. Balancing of chances to calculate. Okay, now I'm just going to restart that entire sentence because I completely messed it up. Too bad. Measurement owes its existence to earth. Estimation of quantity to measurement. Calculation to estimation of quantity. Balancing of chances to calculation. And victory to balancing of chances. A victorious army opposed to the routed one is as a pound's weight placed in the scale against a single grain. The onrush of a conquering force is like the bursting of pent-up waters into a chasm 1,000 fathoms deep. And now, apparently, Chapter 9. Now I'm going to Chapter 5. At least I can see how long Chapter 9 is. The average length. Chapter 5. Energy. Sun Tzu said, The control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. Fighting with a large army under your command is no wise different than fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. To ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attacks and remain unshaken, this is effected by the maneuvers direct and indirect. That the impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg. This is effected by the science of weak points and strong. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. Indirect tactics, efficiently applied, are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams. Like the sun and moon, they end but to begin anew. Like the 4 seasons, they pass away to return once more. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combination of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can be heard. Oh, is there now? There are not more than 5 primary colors. Oh, blue, yellow, red, white, and black. Yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes: sour, acrid, salt, sweet, and bitter. Yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. Oh, I guess they were all not more. If I said that wrong. You know what? Next time I read this book live, which I will not mess up. In battle, there are not more than 2 methods of attack: the direct and the indirect. Yet these 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. The direct and indirect lead on to each other in turn. Oh, jeez. Okay, pacing was off. Again. The direct and indirect lead onto each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? The onset of troops is like the rushing of a torrent which will even roll stones along in its course. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Therefore, the good fighter will be terrible in its onset and prompt in his decision. This may be likened to the bending of a crossbow decision to the releasing of a trigger. Wait. Did I say energy there? Am I dying? What's going on with my brain? My eyes? Who's going to tell Sun Tzu about spicy food? I am. We'll restart this. It is kind of still hot over here. The air is not flowing good enough, I guess. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of a trigger. I guess. Amid the turmoil and the tumult of battle, there may be seeming disorder and yet no real decision at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may be without head or tail, yet it will be proof against defeat. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline. Simulated fear postulates courage. Simulated weakness postulates strength. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision. Concealing courage under a show of timidity, again, presupposes a fund of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be affected by tactical dispositions. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something, that the enemy may snatch at it. Oh, that was also weird pacing. I was expecting more. By holding out baits, he keeps him on the march. Then, with a pick of pricked men, he lies in wait for him. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy, and does not require too much from individuals. Hence, his ability to pick out the right men and utilize combined energy. When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become, as it were, like undue rolling logs or stones. Unto rolling logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on the ground, and to move when on a slope, on the level ground, and to move when on a slope. If four-cornered, to come to a standstill. But if round-cornered, to go rolling down. Thus, the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. I was also expecting more there. That was the end of chapter 5. And we are going to go to chapter 6. Weak points and strong. Sun Tzu said, "Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted. Therefore, the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. By holding out advantages to him, he can cause the enemy to approach of his own accord, or by inflicting damage, he can make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. If the enemy is taking his ease, he can harass him. If well supplied with food, he can starve him out. If quietly encamped, he can force him to move. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. An army may march great distances without distress, if it marches through country where the enemy is not. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked." Damn. Hence, the general is skillful in attack, whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense, whose opponent does not know what to attack. O divine art of subtlety, and sacredity! Through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. You may advance to be absolutely irresistible if you make for the enemy's weak points. You may retire and be safe from pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. If we wish to fight, the enemy can be forced to an engagement, even though he be sheltered behind a high rampart and a deep ditch. All we need to do is attack from other... Okay, all we need to do, listen up, is attack some other place that he will be obliged to relieve. If we do not wish to fight, we can prevent the enemy from engaging us, even though the lines of our encampment can be merely traced out on the ground. All we need to do is to throw something odd and unaccountable in his way. By discovering the enemy's dispositions and remaining invisible ourselves, we can keep our forces concentrated while the enemy's must be divided. We can form a single united body, while the enemy must be split up into fractions. Hence, there will be a whole pitted against separate parts of a whole, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. Not desire. Quite the opposite, actually. The spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points. And his forces being thus distributed in many directions, the numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionally few. For should the enemy strengthen his van, he will weaken his rear. Should he strengthen his rear, we will weaken... Jeez, this is like a tongue twister. He will weaken his van, which I think means forward, maybe. Should he strengthen his left, we will weaken his right. I guess I'm right about that too, for the front. Should he strengthen his right, we will weaken his left. If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength from compelling our adversary to make these preparations against us. Knowing the place and the time of the coming battle, we may concentrate from the greatest distances in order to fight. But if neither time nor place be known, then the left wing will be impotent to succor the right equally impotent to succor the left, the van unable to relieve the rear, or the rear to support the van. How much more so if the furthest portions of the army are anything under 100 lie apart, and even the nearest are separated by several li, as I'm pretty sure a Chinese form of measurement. If not that, I don't know. Though, according to my estimate of the soldiers of Hugh exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say, then, that the victory can be achieved. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent him from fighting. Scheme, so... What was that? Scheme? I kind of sung that, didn't I? Scheme so as to discover his plans and the likelihood of their success. Arouse him... Wait, is that... Rouse. I think it is rouse, and it. Oh yeah, it is. It is. It's like arouse without the a. I'm dumb. I haven't seen that, I guess. Arouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself, so as to find out his vulnerable spots. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains. How victory may be produced from them out of the enemy's own tactics, that is what the multitude cannot comprehend. All men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy by of which victory is evolved. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite varieties of circumstances. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from highest places and hastens downwards. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. Water shares its source according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there is no constant conditions. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. The 5 elements, water, fire, wood, metal, earth, are not always equally predominant. The 4 seasons make way for each other in turn. There are short days and long. The moon has its periods of waning and waxing. Okay. That was chapter 6. And a quick hydration break. Okay. Let's go to chapter 7. Chapter 7. Maneuvering. Sun Tzu said, In war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign. Having collected an army and concentrated his forces, he must blend and harmonize the different elements thereof before pitching his camp. After that comes tactical maneuvering, than which there is nothing more difficult. The difficulty of tactical maneuvering consists in turning the devious into the direct, and misfortune into gain. Thus, to take a long and circuitous route, after enticing the enemy out of the way, and through starting after him, to contrive to reach the goal before him, shows knowledge of the artifice of deviation. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an undisciplined multitude most dangerous. If you set a fully equipped army in march in order to snatch an advantage, the chances are that you will be too late. On the other hand, to detach a flying column for the purpose involves the sacrifice of its baggage and stores. Thus, if you order your men to roll up their buff coats and make forced marches without halting day or night, covering double the usual distance at a stretch, doing 100 lie in order to wrest an advantage, the leaders of all your 3 divisions will fall, into the hands of the enemy. Actually, yeah, will fail, I guess. The stronger men will be in front. The jaded ones will fall behind. And on this plan, only 1/10 of your army will reach its destination. If you march 50 lie in order to outmaneuver the enemy, you will lose the leader of your 1st division, and only half your force will reach the goal. If you march 30 lie with the same object, 2/3 of your army will arrive. We may take it then that an army without its baggage train is lost. Without provisions, it is lost. Without bases of supply, it is lost. We cannot enter into alliances unless we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices. What the heck is that word? Precipices. You know what? I'll learn that word later, and when we read the book again, I will say it. Its marshes and swamps. Remember all those comparisons. We shall be unable to turn natural advantage to account unless we make use of local guides. In war, practice dissimulation, and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. Let your rapidity be that of the wind, your compactness that of the forest. In raiding and plundering be like fire, is immovable like a mountain. Let your forces be dark and impenetrable. Yeah, that's how it's spelled, isn't it? And impenetrable as night. And when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. When you plunder a countryside, let the spoil be divided amongst your men. When you capture new territory, cut it into allotments for the benefit of the soldiery. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. He will conquer who has learnt the artifice of deviation. Such is the art of maneuvering. The book of army management says, on the field of battle, the spoken word does not carry far enough. Hence the institution of gongs and drums. Nor can ordinary objects be seen clearly enough. Hence the institution of banners and flags. Gongs and drums, banners and flags are means whereby the ears and eyes of the host may be focused on one particular point. The host thus forming a single united body. Is it impossible either for the brave to advance alone, or for the cowardly to retreat alone? This is the art of handling large masses of men. In night fighting, then, make much use of single fires and drums, and in fighting by day, of flags and banners, as a means of influencing the ears and eyes of your enemy. A whole army may be robbed of its spirit. A commander-in-chief may be robbed of his presence of mind. Now, a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noontime it is begun to flag, and in the evening his mind is bent only on returning to camp. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirits is keen, but attacks when it is sluggish and inclined to retreat. This is the art of studying moods. Disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. To be near the goal while the enemy is still far away from it, to wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling, to be well fed while the enemy is famished, this is the art of husbanding one's strength. To refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order, to retain from attacking an army drawn in its calm and confident array, this is the art of studying circumstances. It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he comes downhill. Do not pursue an enemy who simulates flight. Do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen. Do not swallow bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an array that is returning home. Array. Jeez, I'm thinking of past words I saw. With an army that is returning home. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Such is the art of warfare. That would have been so cool if I actually said it right, wouldn't it? Let's see what we have next. Chapter 8. Well, actually, first I want to see if Chapter 10's behind it for some reason. That'll make a bit more sense. Wait. Where's chapter 10? Wait, this is chapter 8. Oh, chapter 8 is very small. Okay. It's literally the next page. Okay, let's start on chapter 8 then. Chapter 8, Variation in Tactics. Sun Tzu said, "In war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign, collects his army, and concentrates his forces. When in a difficult country, do not encamp. In country where high roads intersect, join hands with your army, with your allies. Not your army and your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. In hemmed-in situations, you must resort to stratagem. In desperate position, you must fight. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops. The general who does not understand these may be well acquainted with the configuration of the country, yet he will not be able to turn his knowledge to practical account. So, the student of war who is unversed in the art of war of varying his plans, even though he be acquainted with the 5 advantages, will fail to make the best use of his men. Hence, in the wise leader's plans, considerations of advantage and of disadvantage will be blended together. If our expectation of advantage be tempered in this way, we may succeed in accomplishing the essential part of our schemes. If, on the other hand, in the midst of difficulties, we are always ready to seize an advantage, we may extricate. You know what? All these words I have not used for years, they're kind of hard to instantly look at and spell. I admit, I'd be dumb sometimes, okay? We may it's probably like a really easy word that I know how to spell, but I'm just having a brain fart moment. I apologize. Is it like excrete or no? Extricate. Yeah, I guess that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, I'm dumb, aren't I? I know. We may extricate ourselves from misfortune, reduce the hostile chiefs by inflicting damage on them, and make troubles for them, and keep them constantly engaged, hold out specious allurements, and make them rush to any given point. The art of war teaches us to rely on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him. Not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. Cowardice, which leads to capture. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. A delicacy, yeah, that's how you spell it, isn't it? A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. Over solicitude, oh my God. Over solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. These are the 5 besetting sins of a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is overthrown and its leaders slain, the cause will surely be fought amongst his 5 dangerous faults. These 5 dangerous faults, let them be subject to meditation. I gotta meditate to read better, I guess. Okay, that was chapter 8. Now let's go all the way back in the book to chapter 9 for some reason. Wherever it is. Okay, chapter 9. Tactical dispositions. Wait, did I say that one? No, that's chapter... Jeez, that's chapter 4. It's the one after, isn't it? Hold on. Where is it? Okay. Chapter 9. The Army on the March. Sun Tzu said, "We come now to the question of encamping the army, the observing signs of the enemy, passing quickly over the mountains, and keep in the neighborhood of valleys." I'm going to say that again because I extended some words incorrectly. We come now to the question of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over mountains and keep in the neighborhood of valleys. Camp in high places facing the sun. Do not climb heights in order to fight. So much for mountain warfare. Yeah, sometimes the high ground isn't really the option, I guess. After crossing a river, you must get far away from it. When an invading force crosses a river in its own onward march, do not advance to meet it in midstream. It will be best to let half the army across and then to deliver your attack. If you are anxious to fight, then you should not go to meet the invader near a river which he has to cross. Moor your craft higher up to the enemy and facing the sun. Do not move upstream to meet the enemy. So much for river warfare. In crossing salt marshes, your sole concern should be to get over them quickly, without any delay. If forced to fight in a salt marsh, you should have water and grass near you, and get your back to a clump of trees. So much for operations in salt marshes. In dry, level country, take up an easily accessible position with a rising ground to your right and on your rear, so that the danger may be in front and safely lie behind. So far for campaigning in flat country. These are the 4 useful branches of military knowledge which enable the Yellow Empire to vanquish 4 several sovereigns. All armies prefer high ground to low and sunny places, and low and sunny places to dark. Okay, it says right here the high ground is key. Okay, the high ground is key. If you are careful of your men and camp on hard ground, the army will be free from disease of every kind, and this will spell victory. When you come to a hill or a bank, occupy the sunny side, with the slope on your right rear. Thus you will at once act for the benefit of your soldiers and utilize the natural advantages of the ground. When in consequence of heavy rains up country, a river which you wish to ford is swollen and flecked with foam, you must wait until it subdues. The country in which there are precipitous cliffs with torrents running between, deep natural hollows, confined places, tangled thickets, quagmires, and crevices, should be left with all possible speed and not approached. While we keep away from such places, we should get the enemy to approach them. While we face them, we should let the enemy have them on his rear. If in the neighborhood of your camp there should be any hilly country, ponds surrounded by aquatic grass, hollow basins filled with reeds, or woods with thick undergrowth, they must be carefully routed out and searched, for these are places where men in ambush or insidious spies are likely to be lurking. When the enemy is close at hand and remains quiet, he is relying on the natural strength of his position. When he keeps aloft and tries to provoke a battle, he is anxious for the other side to advance. If his place of encampment is easy of access, he is tendering a bait. Movement amongst the trees of a forest shows that the enemy is advancing. The appearance of a number of screens in the midst of thick grass means the enemy wants to make us suspicious. The rising of birds and their flight is a sign of An ambuscade. I'm just gonna say a attack. Startled beasts indicate that a sudden attack is coming. When there is dust rising in a high column, it is the sign of chariots advancing. When the dust is low but spread over a wide area, it betokens the approach of infantry. When it branches out in different directions, it shows that parties may have been sent to collect firewood. A few clouds of dust moving to and fro signifies the army is encamping. Humble words and increased preparations are signs that the enemy is about to advance. Violent language and driving forward as if to attack are signs that he will retreat. When the light chariots come out first and take up a position on the wings, it is a sign that the enemy is forming for battle. Peace proposals unaccompanied by a sworn covenant indicate a plot. When there is much running about and the soldiers fall into rank, it seems that the critical moment has come. When some are seen advancing and some retreating, it is a lure. When the soldiers stand leaning on their spears, they are faint from want of food. If those who are seen to draw water begin drinking themselves, the army is suffering from thirst. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained and makes no effort to secure it, the soldiers are exhausted. If birds gather on any spot that is unoccupied, clamor by night betokens nervousness. Oh wait, that was wrong. If birds gather on any spot, it is unoccupied. Clamor by night betokens nervousness. If there is disturbance in the camp, the general's authority is weak. If the banners and flags are shifted about, sedition is afoot. If the armies are angry, and if the officers are angry, it means that the men are weary. When an army feeds its horses with grain and kills its cattle for food, and when the men do not hang their cooking pots over the campfires, showing that they will not return to their tents, you may know that they are determined to fight to the death. The sign of men whispering together in small knots or speaking in subdued tones points to a disaffection amongst the rank and file. Too frequent rewards signify that the enemy is at the end of his resources. Too much punishment betray a condition of dire distress. To begin by bluster, but afterwards to take fright at the enemy's numbers, shows a supreme lack of intelligence. When envoys are sent with compliments in their mouths, it is a sign that the enemy wishes for a truce. If the enemy's troops march up angrily and remain facing ours for a long time without either joining the battle, or taking themselves off again, the situation is one that demands great vigilance and circumspection. If our troops are no more in number than the enemy, that is amply sufficient, it only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply to concentrate all our available strength, keep a close watch on the enemy, and obtain reinforcements. Yeah, I'm not going to finish this book, am I? He who exercises no force but makes light in his opponents is sure to be captured by them. Actually, we probably will. Maybe. If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive, and, unless submissive, they will be practically useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with humanity, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. If in training soldiers' commands are habitually enforced, the army will be well disciplined. If not, its discipline will be bad. If a general shows confidence in his men but always insists on his orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. That was chapter 9 there. Now we go back through the book to chapter 10, which is terrain. How much of the book do we have left? I mean, kind of a big chunk. What's the biggest one that's in here? Actually, I don't think it's not too bad, honestly. Okay. Chapter 10. Terrain. Sun Tzu said, "We may distinguish 6 kinds of terrain, to wit, 1. Accessible ground. 2. Entangling ground. 3. Temporizing ground. 4. Narrow passes. 5. Precipitous heights. And 6. Positions at a great distance from the enemy. Ground, which can be freely traversed by both sides, is called accessible. With regard to ground of this nature, be before the enemy in occupying the raised and sunny spots, and carefully guard your line of supplies. Then you'll be able to fight with advantage. Ground which can be abandoned but is hard to reoccupy is called entangling. From a position of this sort, if the enemy is unprepared, you may sally forth and defeat him. But if the enemy is prepared for your coming, you will fail to defeat him, then, return being impossible, disaster will ensue. When the positions is such that neither side will gain by making the first move, it is called temporizing ground. It is a position of this sort, even though the enemy should offer us an attractive bait, it will be advisable not to stir forth, but rather to retreat, thus enticing the enemy in his return. Then, when part of his army has come out, we may deliver our attack with advantage. Honestly, I'm very tired. I guess I'm pretty sure that's what's affecting my reading. I probably shouldn't have done it this late, have I? You know what? I'm going to finish this chapter, though. With regard to narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, let them be strongly garrisoned and await the advent of the enemy. Should the army forestall you in occupying a pass, do not go after him in the pass if the pass is fully garrisoned, but only if it is weakly garrisoned. With regard to precipitous heights, you are... Actually, you know what? Yep. I'm just going to end it right now. I will read more later. That was kind of chapter 1 to 9, really. A bit of chapter 10. I am noticing that I am having trouble focus on the words and stuff. I am, tired. So, yeah. Hopefully we can do this earlier, obviously, one day. And when we do that, hopefully we can read the entire book. I am going to start reading over the entire book next time I read. I'm not going to start just at chapter 10. I'm going to start all over again because this read wasn't the best, but hopefully the next one will be. So yeah, I'm going to close the stream for now. First, I want to fix my Zoom. Okay. So yeah, I hope you liked that nice reading I did, and that you follow and all, and you come back for the next reading, the full version of the Art of War. That was a lot of the Art of War, really. So yeah, you should be happy about that, I guess. So anyways, thank you for watching. I've been Goomb. You are now leaving the Goombosphere, and hopefully you will return soon. So yeah, I want you to have a great night. Sleep well, and come back next time. Goodbye.